Hey everybody, Movie Reviewer Next Door here, and I'm back with another review. This time I saw A Good Marriage. This is a 2014 horror film directed by Peter Askin, and it stars Joan Allen, Anthony LaPaglia, Stephen Lang, and Kristen Connolly. In this film, after 25 years of a good marriage, what will Darcy do once she discovers her husband's sinister secret? So, what did I think of A Good Marriage? Well, I'm gonna have to talk about spoilers in this, so spoilers ahead. It was okay. It's very, it's very, it has an intriguing premise, but I think it fails to live up to a lot of the potential it could have had. But one ringing endorsement I can say for this is Joan Allen's performance, as she has like an 8 or 9 out of 10 performance. This is like a performance that would be in a 8 or 9 out of 10 movie that's in this. And I will talk about how that is in the movie, but yeah, um, again, get to the cast. Joan Allen plays Darcy Anderson. She is a wife who has been happily married to her husband for 25 years, and she realizes, well, she finds evidence that, well, tells her that her husband is a serial killer. Joan Allen is an actress that's been in a ton of films. Um, she was in Supremacy and Ultimatum, and technically Born Legacy. She's kind of in the background, and that's part of what I didn't care for in Born Legacy is that her side plot kind of just was there and didn't do much. Um, oh, my bad. She was in Manhunter, Hachi a Dog's Tale. Oh, Hachi a Dog's Tale, which I think is a pretty great family film. Pleasantville, love that film. Uh, Death Race, she has that amazing line, "Fuck with me." All right, Frankenstein, fuck with me, and we'll see who shits on the sidewalk. One of the best things I remember from that movie. Face Off. So she's an actress that's had a lot of work, and you can tell from watching this. She gives a very good performance here. Whenever she's on screen, she's commanding it, even if I think the film kind of misuses her at times. Uh, Anthony LaPaglia plays Bob Anderson, her husband, who again turns out to be a serial killer. I really like Anthony LaPaglia. Kind of what you'd consider a character actor. Um, he's been in tons of films as well. Um, Probably the most recent thing I saw him in was The Assignment with Michelle Rodriguez and Sigourney Weaver. But he was in Road to Perdition, Annabelle Creation, um, SOS Summer of Sam. But yeah, he was, I wouldn't say as good as her, but he still does a pretty good job. He nails the feel of a serial killer, I think, pretty well. Stephen Lang plays Holt Ramsey. He's a character that doesn't really get properly introduced until the last 15 minutes of the film. Um, I love Stephen Lang, but again, he's given nothing to do here. He's a character that kind of comes after what I would think would be normally the ending of the movie, but he's like an old former detective that's looking out for these murders and shit. Um, he's okay though, I guess. And Kirsten Connolly plays Petra Anderson, their uh Darcy and Bob's daughter. And she's the only real kid of theirs that gets really any uh any screen time really. But she's fine. I recognized her. She's in Cabin in the Woods and Confessions of a Shopaholic. So I knew who she was. Uh, I think she was also in The Happening in that opening scene where she's like, her friend is reading, either she or her friend is reading a book, and then one of them sticks a knife into their neck. I remember that. One of the weirdest things about her acting in A Good Marriage is there's bits where she'll react to something and it seems kind of unscripted. Like she's kind of overdoing the facial expressions where she's like that eh, to the point where it almost feels a bit comedic. And I was like, is this movie a comedy? Like a super dark comedy? But it isn't. This film has such a winning premise. Like, you find out your husband is a serial killer after having been married to him 25 years. And I know this is based on a Stephen King novel. I've never read the novel, so I can't really comment on how accurate it is to the source material. Um, but as a film, which is how I usually go after things, as a film, it's just kind of middling all around. Again, other other than Joan Allen's performance, it is a very dull movie. It has a very intriguing first 25 to 30 minutes. Very intriguing. Like a deep to something. Because again, spoilers, said spoilers. Um, you get to a point where he knows that she found out, and then he explains to her, "Oh, it's just in my head. I can't really help it. So if you can just keep it quiet, everything will be okay. I won't let Beatty hurt you," which is his other side that goes after these women. And I'm like, okay, this is an interesting dynamic they're building up. And not much is done with it because for most of the film after this, after the like 30 or 35-minute mark, it's them living together, her being a bit dismissive, her being scared of everything, a bunch, multiple dream sequences where it's like, oh, we're, oh, there's this coin I want, and she gets the coin, or he gets the coin, and the, like again, there will be like dream sequences where like, oh, she finds Petra dead and then she's not dead. Oh, she's being strangled by him, but she's not actually. And I'm not a fan of that shit. Most of the movies that do this, I get pissed off because it's like, oh, is this real or not? There are parts where it's obviously not real and it's meant to just be kind of a jump scare. Like one where she's looking into the mirror and then it cuts to a different angle and then he comes up behind her and says, "You just had to go fucking snooping, didn't you?" And then he bashes her head into the mirror. I was like, okay, that's okay. But most of it is very psychological horror nonsense. Does the thing every like Jacob's Ladder copycat did, but Jacob's Ladder did it well. And Jacob's Ladder was creepy and had I mean, again, Joan Allen is not the issue here. Neither is Anthony LaPaglia. But for most of the movie, in the second act, after he finds out that she knows, it's mostly them trying to live a normal life. And then she like pushes him over a railing at the top of the stairs at like an hour and 15 minutes in. And then you'd think, oh, in any other movie, this would be where it ends. And then it keeps going with this Stephen Lang character that comes out of nowhere. I mean, he's been like in the shadows the entire movie, but he hasn't really said anything. And he's investigating, but not really. And it feels weird. It feels like, okay, we have an epilogue. And then there's a bit where she like tries to poison him because he thinks that she was killing with him because BD means Bob and Darcy. BD. BD. Beadie. Beatty. Which I did roll my eyes at that. Um, so he thinks they're killing together, and then she, I guess, like spikes his drink or something, and then he walks to his car, faints, is in the hospital. She visits him in the hospital thinking she's gonna have to suffocate him so he can't tell a secret. And then he realizes what that she killed her husband, the serial killer, and then the movie just kind of ends. So again, the best part of this movie is the first 20 to 25 minutes. The scene where the last really good scene of this movie is when Anthony LaPaglia spooks the fuck out of, or when Bob spooks the fuck out of Darcy in her bedroom when she's like locking the doors and shit, knowing that he's home, and then he explains to her like what's happening. The best acting in the film happens there, and from there it is downhill because again, they really don't do much with this dynamic. It's mostly just your normal like, oh, I'm in a house and I'm scared, and yeah, it was just kind of boring, to be honest. And again, with a Stephen King thing, I was expecting more of a twisty thing by the end. I personally thought that she was going to actually have something to do with it, and I thought there was something with her pills was going to come into it because there's something about her pills, and there's visions she's having. I was like, oh, is she actually going to turn out to be a part of these somehow? But no, and for most of it, it just feels like a very boring Lifetime film, which again, I enjoy Lifetime films to an extent in kind of a goofy, fun way, but this was just very disappointing. I wouldn't say it's a bad film, but just insanely mediocre with how it goes about its premise. It doesn't, again, it really doesn't. In the same way with Parasite, the South Korean film, where I feel like the first half is the makings of a really good dark comedy, where I thought the jokes landed, I thought the acting was really good, I thought the premise was actually in full force, and then in the second half, it felt like a 4 out of 10 movie where it devolved into really bullshit ramblings, and the horror just did not hit, and I found the poor family to be way more unlikable compared to these rich people. And I know the entire point of that movie was to be like, oh, rich people bad, poor people good. But the rich people really didn't do anything to these people. And the poor people were, again, feeding off of the rich people, literally and metaphorically. So it's kind of a similar thing here where there's intriguing stuff in the first like third of this film, but then after that it goes straight downhill, and yeah, it was very disappointing. Um, the score as well. I don't know who did the score. Mhm. No one is listed on Letterboxd, but oh yeah, the director Peter Askin. He's mostly known for Trumbo, the movie about a movie about Dalton Trumbo, a guy who was blacklisted in Hollywood. Um, this isn't the Bryan Cranston movie from I think 2015, but it's a documentary. And you can kind of tell in this that this director mostly is documentary because there aren't a lot of like sweeping shots. Like there's some okay cinematography in the house. There's some okay shots over the staircase where it is looking down and then it looks up as the character's walking up the stairs. But it's mostly kind of lifetimey and how it looks and how it feels. And I feel like it didn't. hit full force with its premise like it should have. So yeah, there's not a lot for me to say about this. I'm just very disappointed that it didn't go a bit further with what it was trying to do. But yeah, that was my review of A Good Marriage. If you've seen the film, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. If you have any recommendations, put them down there as well. And movie reviewer next door out.